Hello ladies and gents, welcome back to the channel. This week we got a Coraline card for Halloween, kinda, you know? So starting off, I'm making YB. I'm taking this boy from the Bicycle Built For You stamp set, and I'm masking off just the hair portions, and I'm removing my mask and stamping him. I used Gina K ink on my Misty onto white cardstock. I then sketched it out with a pencil and went over that with a fine liner using reference images, and here I'm coloring him. So I'm using E25 and E23 for his skin tone, so that's his face and his hands. And then I'm using E79, E29, and E27, I believe, for his hair. Because it is textured and curly. I'm just initially adding like a flat wash of color to get my lights and my darks in, and then I'm going to add some stippling textures with my markers to make it look like it has texture to the hair and like it's kind of curly. So yeah, this card is kind of Halloween, kind of not Halloween. You can do whatever you want with it. I just feel like it's a good card for this time of the year because Coraline's kind of a spooky movie, you know? So it's kind of a good Halloween card. So I used N0 and N2 for the little reflective tape pieces on his jacket. And then I'm using N5, N7, and N9 for his jacket and his little shoes. And here I'm using B29, B26, and B24 for his jeans, I guess. I couldn't really find a good reference image for what his pants looked like, but I don't think it really matters that much. For Coraline, I started off by using a mermaid image from the Mermaid for You stamp set. I'm obviously masking off the mermaid portions and some of her hair because Coraline's a human and she's got a short kind of bob hairstyle that I wanted to try to recreate as best as I could. So I'm stamping that up, removing my masks, and stamping it onto my cardstock. I then took this unicorn image, I believe, from the Costume Party stamp set. I lined up the face with the one I had, and I'm just masking it off, so all I'm stamping is legs. I just wanted to ensure that she would be the right height and she won't be like really tall for some reason in comparison to my other images on the card. And then with reference images, I sketched and went over it with my multi-liner. It's in 0.5 thickness, I believe. And yeah, now I'm coloring her with my Copics. So I'm using the same color I did for the jeans for her hair, the color combos, and then I'm using Y35, Y15, and Y13 for her raincoat and rain boots, and E31 and E30 for her face and arms and such. Next, I added some R20 to her cheeks, and then I'm using V04 and R32 for her striped leggings, and I'm using E25 and E23 for this satchel bag thing, and I'm also using that for her freckles. And for the final detail on her, I am using this sparkly gel pen to recreate this dragonfly barrette she has in her hair. And then next I'm moving on to my other images I'm using on this card. The first one here is a haunted house from the Happy Haunting stamp set from Fawn. It's a bit of an older set, but it actually really works well for what I wanted to do with this card. I'm trying to recreate the Pink Palace, which is where the characters kind of live, and it's this haunted house that's like 100 years old in the movie, and this is where all the bad things are happening and stuff. So yeah, it's the Pink Palace, so I'm coloring it pink, who knew? And I am using R85, R83, and R81, and I'm using that on the entirety pretty much of the house. So yeah. So yeah, Coraline, it's another good movie. It's another claymation. Go figure, I'm only doing cards about claymations for some reason. But it's so good. I don't believe it's super popular. Like, I was making this card and my mom didn't really know the movie. So if you have the time and you have Canadian Netflix, it's on Canadian Netflix. I would recommend watching it while it's still on there because it is a classic. Very cool. It's by Leica Studios, and I'm a big fan of all of their movies because they put so much work into these claymation films, and they're so cool. So you just have to appreciate how much time it takes to make those. It's insane. I could never have the patience to make something like that. But then again, here I am making all these cards. So, you know, it is what it is. Here I'm adding N9, N7, and N5 to the roofing and the shingles and this door. I couldn't tell if the door was supposed to be open or closed on this image, so I just made it black. And here I am adding some browns, so that's E27 and E25 for the porch on the house, just because there was just only 2 colors and I needed to add something else to it to make it look more interesting, in my opinion. So yeah. So next I'm coloring this bicycle's image from the Bicycle Built For You stamp set from Fawn. It is the same one I got the little boy character that I used for YB. So I'm coloring this bicycle red because in the movie it looked kind of red. Obviously YB's was very different because it just was. So I'm using R39, R29, and R24 for the bicycle, the majority of it. And then I'm using some grays for the rest. So I'm using N7 and N5 for the tires, the bicycle seat, and I think the handles even. And then I'm also using some N0 and N2 for other little components like the pedals and the basket. I'm also taking those same red colors as well as some of those darker grays I was using previously in a lot of my coloring, and I'm coloring this top hat image. It will be for my little mouse, and it comes from the Bicycle Built For You stamp set. It's supposed to make him look like he was the ringleader from the mouse circus in the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, I probably sound insane. Next, I am coloring this black cat. I'm using N9, N7, and N5 again, same colors. This cat image comes from the Meow You Doin stamp set. So yeah, he's like kind of a guide for Coraline, and he talks, so that's pretty cool. He also has a really deep voice for a cat, so that was also pretty cool. He's also a very interesting character in the film. Yet another reason to watch it, because it's got talking cats. And then here I'm coloring this mouse. So this is going to be my little circus mouse. I'm using E35 and E31 to color him. And I'm not coloring the pilgrim hat because I will be covering it up with the top hat. And he is from the Thankful Mice stamp set. Kind of an older one from Fawn, but it's all good. You know, it's interesting because you can combine all these images and they all work so well together for these cards. Next I have some buttons, the thread, the button bin, and the sewing needle. These all come from the Sewn with Love stamp set from Fawn, I believe. So yeah, I'm coloring all the buttons black because if you've seen the movie, you would know the whole premise is the other mother is trying to sew buttons in Coraline's eyes, and having buttons for eyes is a common motif in this movie. So yeah, that is with all the sewing images. I actually didn't end up putting them on the outside of the card, so it's totally optional if you don't want to color these because you're lazy like me. I put them on the inside just because it's nice to decorate the entirety of the card, in my opinion. It makes it look really polished and just adds something else. Plus, I didn't want to waste these images that I had spent time coloring. So I started off with this large Slimline background for my background, obviously. And then I have these hills that I cut using the stitched hillside borders. And then I have a road border cut as well and some browns. These are all just Recollections cardstocks. And I cut out this balloon frame from Fawn. It is a medium sized. And I cut off the balloon like end to it to make it a circle. This is going to be my button moon from the film. I thought this would be an interesting element to add to make it look more like the movie and kind of really push that element forward so people kind of know what this card is supposed to be about and I don't look really weird. So I just cut that out of white cardstock and I'm coloring it with my Copics. I kind of sketched out where I wanted my buttonholes in the center. I didn't exactly measure these, so don't come at me if they don't look perfect, because I know they don't. So I'm using my darker Copics in the center. So I believe that was like BG32, BG15, and BG11. And then I'm using some lighter ones on the outside to kind of blend that out. I just tried to make it look like a turquoise moon, kind of like it's glowing. I felt like if I did a big black button in the sky, it would maybe look too distracting or not show up in a way I wanted it to. So yeah. Here I am adding some interest to my road with some vintage photo distress inks because I find the inks show up a little bit darker on cardstocks. And I'm also adding interest to my hills with some Modelon distress ink and the vintage photo again, just to darken them up, make them look a little bit different and make them stand out against each other. And I'm just doing that on all of my hills. So I have to apologize. I just couldn't find the footage of me ink blending my sky piece here. So I did use the same halo technique that I used in my Nightmare Before Christmas card because I have another moon. So I used tumbled glass, blueprint sketch, and wilted violet oxide inks. I will leave a card here in the video. You can click that if you want to go watch my Nightmare Before Christmas card video where I kind of explain how I did that. So yeah, I also added some Starry Night watercolors and let those dry just because they add something special to the card. I don't know, they're just so pretty. And I didn't use them in my last card video, so I was obviously itching to use those again. And here I am mounting all of my hill pieces to my card using my ATG gun, as well as this little road piece that I had die cut for my little bike to kind of ground it a little more. And here I am mounting my button moon. So I'm using liquid glue to glue the outer edge because it's so skinny, and I'm using ATG gun to glue down the main piece. And we're beginning the main assembly of the card. So I had die cut my images using the corresponding dies, except for my custom characters. So for YB and Coraline, I had to fussy cut them, but it's fine. So I am just using a mixture of ATG gun and liquid glue to glue down all my folks to the card. For Coraline and my little cat here, I am using some foam squares. I also gave Coraline a little doll. I don't believe I showed this in my coloring process, but I used the same colors I used for Coraline, and the doll image comes from the Holiday Helper stamp set. So that was an interesting touch, and I felt like it really made the card because it's just another small detail from the movie that I put in. So I had these spare trees I had cut out a long time ago lying around, so I decided to use them on my card because I felt like I had so much free space that I needed to fill because it just felt like it was missing something. So I added those. They come from the stitched tree borders and the scallop treat box add-on dies. So, you know, use what you got. I also found some buttons lying around that I glued on with some glue dots. Now, I'm actually really proud of these. I think they really add to the card. So the buttons on the ground I'm using are green ones, and then I'm using some blue ones in the sky. So they're not too demanding, but they add a lot to the card, and I feel like they're so cool. So props to my mom for helping me come up with that, because I was kind of stressed because I just felt like it was lacking a little bit. So for final touches on this card front, I am using a Spectrum Noir clear pen to add some shimmer to like the roof and the moon. And then I'm using a white Jelly Roll gel pen to clean up some lines and add some highlights to certain images. And I'm also using a Jelly Roll that's in a clear sparkle and a Jelly Roll glaze pen for eyes. The only eyes that were actually open on this card were on the doll, but I still added it anyways because it's just little details like that that I think really make the card. Alright, moving along, I have a card base here. It is from obviously blue cardstock, or I guess that wouldn't be so obvious if you're colorblind, but it is 8.5 by 7, and on the 7 inches side, I scored it at 3.5 to fit my card front. And on the inside here, I am stamping using that Sewn with Love stamp set. You're as cute as a button. I didn't really do a Halloween sentiment because I just felt like, what if I didn't want this to be a Halloween card? What if I wanted to keep it for a birthday or something? But I mean, you can make it Halloween. You could do whatever you wanted with this card. And I glued on my card front with my ATG gun. And here I am gluing in all these extra pieces I had colored to the inside using some liquid glue because I just didn't want these to go to waste because I spent time coloring and cutting these out. So yeah. So that about wraps it up for this card. If you'd like to support the channel or me, you can go give me a follow on Instagram. Link is in the description. I also have all the products used there. And then like, share, comment, subscribe. It all means so much. And have a lovely day.